Hello, Zenith women, and welcome to the channel. The streets don't care how smart you are. If you can't read the game, you'll get played. Here's a cold, hard fact. Over 60% of scams, betrayals, and power plays don't happen in dark alleys. They happen in boardrooms, friendships, relationships, and social circles. And guess what? The most independent and intelligent women are often the easiest targets. Why? Because they assume their intellect alone will protect them. Spoiler alert, it won't. Being book smart is great for acing exams, but when life throws a real test your way, a manipulative friend, a backstabbing colleague, or a smooth-talking con artist, street smarts are your only shield. A Sigma female who isn't street smart is like a lioness raised in a petting zoo, powerful but unprepared. And in a world that preys on the unaware, she's either playing chess or being used as a pawn. So if you think being kind, intelligent, and independent is enough, let's correct that before life does it for you. Here's why every Sigma female must be street smart to survive and thrive. Number 1, being too trusting is a luxury you can't afford. Trust is like handing someone a loaded gun and hoping they never pull the trigger. The problem? Most people don't even realize they've given the wrong person permission to destroy them until it's too late. A Sigma female who isn't careful about trust is walking into a battlefield without armor, thinking the enemy will play fair. Spoiler alert, they won't. People are not always what they seem. Some will smile in your face while sharpening their knives behind your back. Others will pretend to have your best interests at heart. But the moment it benefits them, they'll throw you under the bus without a second thought. And the worst part? Betrayal rarely comes from strangers. It comes from the ones you let in too close, the ones you thought were safe. That's why a Sigma female must test people before giving them access. Not everyone deserves a seat at her table, and she needs to be ruthless about who she lets in. The world is full of emotional pickpockets, people who will drain your energy, steal your ideas, and walk away as if they did nothing wrong. A Sigma female who blindly trusts is handing these people the keys to her kingdom, expecting them to guard it instead of loot it. But here's the truth. Trust is not something you give freely. It's something people must earn. They need to prove over time that they can handle access to your mind, your plans, and your life without turning it into ammunition against you. Some people are only loyal as long as it benefits them. The moment circumstances change, they'll flip. A Sigma female who is street smart watches how people behave when they don't need anything from her, how they treat those who have nothing to offer, how they react when she sets a boundary, because loyalty isn't proven in good times. It's tested when there's nothing left to gain. Blind trust is a luxury, and the cost of misplacing it is too high. A smart Sigma female trusts slowly, watches carefully, and never ignores red flags, no matter how small. She knows that once someone shows their true colors, it's only a matter of time before they paint the full picture. And when they do, she won't be standing there in shock. She'll be 5 steps ahead, already gone. Number 2, being nice won't protect you from ruthless competition. Niceness is a great quality until it becomes a weakness. People love a kind and accommodating person, but the moment there's something to gain, that kindness becomes a target. The world isn't a playground where good behavior gets rewarded. It's a battlefield where only the sharpest survive. A Sigma female who doesn't understand this will keep wondering why people take advantage of her, why she's always the one picking up the pieces while others walk away unscathed. Ruthless competition doesn't announce itself. It moves in silence, disguised as colleagues, acquaintances, and even so-called friends who smile to your face but scheme behind your back. It shows up in people who praise your work one day and steal your ideas the next. It's the friend who conveniently forgets to return favors, the co-worker who takes credit for your efforts, the rival who plays dirty while pretending to be fair. And if you think being nice will shield you from these things, you're already 1 step behind. A Sigma female who is street smart knows that kindness is a choice, not an obligation. She understands that there are times when being too accommodating makes her an easy mark. She isn't afraid to walk away from those who mistake her patience for weakness. And when necessary, she plays the game just as strategically as those trying to outmaneuver her. She knows when to be diplomatic and when to draw a hard line. She's not cruel, but she's not naive either. This doesn't mean she becomes cold or heartless. It means she refuses to be a pawn in someone else's power play. She chooses her battles wisely, recognizing that not every fight is worth her energy. But when she does engage, she ensures she comes out on top. She doesn't let guilt or emotional manipulation keep her from making the right decisions. If cutting ties with a toxic person means protecting her peace, she does it without hesitation. If standing her ground means losing fake friends, she welcomes the loss. At the end of the day, the world respects those who command it, not those who beg for fairness. A Sigma female who understands this moves differently. She isn't just kind, she's calculatingly kind. She helps where she wants, supports who she chooses, and never lets her generosity be mistaken for permission to be walked over. Number 3, you need to know when someone is testing you. People test boundaries in ways that seem small at first. A backhanded compliment to see if you'll defend yourself. A ridiculous favor to see if you'll say no. A sudden crisis to see if you'll drop everything for them. These aren't random acts, they're calculated moves to measure your strength, gauge your limits, and figure out if you're someone they can control. A Sigma female who isn't paying attention will keep excusing these things, thinking, oh, they didn't mean it that way, but trust this, they did. The first test is never the real attack. It's just a probe, a way to see if you'll flinch. If you let the small things slide, the bigger test will come, and someone who sees that you tolerate passive-aggressive comments will escalate to outright disrespect. A person who gets away with taking advantage of your time will start expecting you to prioritize them over yourself. And once they realize you won't push back, they'll keep pushing, further and further, until one day you look around and realize you're trapped in a dynamic where you're always accommodating and they're always taking. A street-smart Sigma female doesn't play that game. She recognizes a test the moment it happens, and she doesn't entertain it. If someone throws a passive-aggressive jab, she calls it out or ignores it with such indifference that the person knows it won't work. If someone makes an unreasonable request, she denies it without over-explaining. If a fake emergency appears, she doesn't scramble to fix it. She watches how the person reacts when she says she's unavailable. Every response is a message. I see what you're doing, and it won't work on me. This isn't about being rude or unkind. It's about training people on how they can and cannot treat you. Predatory personalities don't waste time on people who are too strong to manipulate. They move on to easier targets. That's why a Sigma female's strength isn't just in her intelligence or independence. It's in her ability to detect and reject subtle power plays before they become something bigger. And once people realize she's not someone to be tested, they either respect her or disappear. Either way, she wins. Number 4, emotional control is the difference between being respected and being manipulated. Emotional control isn't about being cold. It's about knowing when and how to respond so that no one can use your emotions against you. The moment people realize they can trigger you, they'll do it for sport. If they know you react angrily, they'll provoke you to make you look irrational. If they see you get defensive, they'll poke at your insecurities just to keep you off balance. And if you're too emotionally shut down, they'll assume you're easy to manipulate because you won't push back. Either way, they win, unless you master the game first. A street-smart Sigma female understands that people test others emotionally to see where their power lies. She doesn't give them a manual on how to control her. If someone tries to provoke her, she remains composed. Not because she doesn't feel anything, but because she knows reacting impulsively gives the other person the upper hand. She watches, calculates, and chooses her responses deliberately. Sometimes she meets aggression with cold indifference, showing that their tactics won't work. Other times she plays along just enough to let them think they have the upper hand until it suits her to flip the script. The trick is balance. Being too guarded makes people think you're an easy mark for deception, someone who won't call them out because you don't show emotion. But showing too much emotion tells them exactly where to strike. The key is controlled unpredictability, letting people think they know you while ensuring they never truly do. A Sigma female might laugh off an insult one day and set a hard boundary the next, keeping manipulators unsure of how to handle her. That uncertainty is power. Most people live on emotional autopilot, reacting instead of strategizing. A Sigma female who controls her emotions controls every situation she walks into. She decides when to engage, when to step back, and when to let someone think they've won. only to make a move when they least expect it. Respect isn't demanded, it's commanded through the ability to stay calm under pressure, unpredictable under scrutiny, and completely untouchable when it matters most. And once people realize they can't shake her, they either fall in line or get left behind. Number 5, negotiation skills separate the winners from the exploited. Every interaction is a transaction. Negotiation isn't just for boardrooms, it's happening everywhere all the time. The way someone speaks to you, the effort they put into a relationship, the respect they show, it's all a silent negotiation. And the people who win in life are the ones who understand that nothing is set in stone. A street-smart Sigma female never just accepts what she's given. She evaluates, questions, and shifts the power dynamic in her favor. Most people take what they get because they're afraid to ask for more. They don't want to seem difficult, greedy, or ungrateful. But here's the reality. The world doesn't reward silent acceptance. It rewards those who know their value and demand it. If a Sigma female is offered a job, she doesn't just nod and sign the contract. She negotiates for better pay, benefits, or flexibility. If someone asks for a favor, she weighs the cost before agreeing. If a relationship feels one-sided, she recalibrates or walks away. Because the moment you accept less than what you deserve, you train people to keep giving you less. The biggest mistake people make in negotiation is thinking it's about aggression. It's not. It's about leverage. A Sigma female doesn't stomp her feet or make threats. She subtly shifts the dynamic so that the other person wants to give her more. She creates value, sets boundaries, and knows when silence speaks louder than words. She understands that in every deal, whether it's personal or professional, the person who is willing to walk away holds the most power. This applies to everything. If someone tries to talk down to her, she doesn't argue. She responds in a way that makes them rethink their approach. If someone offers her the bare minimum in a relationship, she doesn't beg for more. She distances herself and lets them realize her absence is more expensive than her presence. If she senses a power imbalance, she doesn't complain. She adjusts the game until it favors her. Weak people accept. Strong people negotiate. A Sigma female knows that everything is up for discussion, and she never walks into any situation blindly accepting what's handed to her. She makes people earn the right to be in her life, and she never settles for a deal that benefits someone else more than it benefits her. Because in the end, those who negotiate don't just survive, they win. Number 6. Your reputation is a currency, and people will try to devalue it. Reputation is power. It's the silent force that opens doors, earns respect, and keeps opportunists in check. A Sigma female who understands this treats her reputation like a valuable asset because that's exactly what it is. But in a world where jealousy runs rampant and people build themselves up by tearing others down, maintaining that reputation isn't just about being competent or respectable. It's about being strategic. People who feel threatened won't always attack you directly. Instead, they'll plant seeds of doubt, twisting facts just enough to make others question you. They won't call you a bad person outright, but they'll say things like, "She's different when no one's watching," or "I heard she's difficult to work with." The goal isn't to prove anything, it's to create just enough uncertainty that your credibility starts to weaken. And if you're not paying attention, you'll waste time defending yourself against whispers instead of shutting them down at the source. A street-smart Sigma female knows that the best defense isn't explanation, it's proof. She carries herself in a way that makes slander ineffective. If someone tries to paint her as unreliable, her track record speaks louder than their words. If they try to frame her as cold or arrogant, her quiet confidence makes it clear that she simply doesn't entertain nonsense. She doesn't overreact because nothing validates a rumor faster than looking panicked. Instead, she operates with a level of poise that makes lies look ridiculous before they even gain traction. And when a direct attack does come, she's ready. She doesn't stoop to gossip wars, but she also doesn't let false narratives go unchecked. She corrects misinformation with precision, never emotional, never defensive, just undeniable. If necessary, she reminds people exactly why she commands respect, sometimes with nothing more than a well-timed silence that lets them feel the weight of their own pettiness. At the end of the day, a Sigma female doesn't just protect her reputation, she controls it. She moves in a way that makes people think twice before trying to tarnish her name. Because in a world where credibility is currency, she refuses to let anyone devalue her worth. Number 7. If you don't control the narrative, someone else will do it for you. Perception isn't just opinion, it's power. The way people see you determines how they treat you, how much respect you command, and even the opportunities that come your way. If you don't take charge of your own narrative, someone else will do it for you, and their version won't be in your favor. The world doesn't wait for you to explain yourself. It fills in the blanks with whatever makes sense to them. That's why a sharp Sigma female never lets others define her. She controls her image without begging for approval. This isn't about being fake or crafting some artificial persona. It's about moving with intention. A Sigma female doesn't overshare because the more people know, the easier it is for them to twist her story. She doesn't seek validation because the moment she starts explaining herself, she loses authority over how she's perceived. Instead, she leads with action. She makes sure her work, her presence, and her choices speak for her. When people try to pin labels on her, cold, difficult, intimidating, she doesn't argue. She lets them believe what they want while continuing to move in a way that makes their assumptions look foolish. The mistake most people make is thinking they can control perception by constantly correcting it. But the truth is, real power comes from being undeniable. When you carry yourself with certainty, when you don't flinch under scrutiny, when you're too focused on your path to chase approval, people take notice. They may not always understand you, but they will respect you. And that's the ultimate win. A Sigma female knows the world loves to project its insecurities onto those who refuse to fit in. But she also knows that by staying deliberate in her actions and selective with her words, she doesn't just control her narrative, she makes sure no one else dares to write it for her. Number 8. People assume you're clueless until you prove them wrong. Most people assume that if you're quiet, you're clueless. If you don't seek attention, you lack confidence. If you don't react, you don't understand what's happening, and that's exactly why Sigma females are often underestimated until it's too late for the other person to recover, because while they're busy assuming, you're busy observing. People who don't fit into the typical social mold are often treated like easy targets. You don't overshare, so they think you have nothing to say. You don't seek validation, so they assume you lack direction. And if you're not paying attention, you'll start falling into their traps. Being manipulated into doing things that don't serve you, getting shortchanged in business and relationships, or being played by people who think they're smarter than you. But a street-smart Sigma female knows better. She doesn't waste energy trying to convince people of her intelligence. She simply moves in a way that makes underestimating her the biggest mistake they could make. She listens more than she speaks, so she catches details others miss. She lets people show their true intentions before deciding if they're worth her time. She stays calm when others expect a reaction, making them question whether they were ever in control to begin with. And when it's time to act, she does so with such precision that those who underestimated her don't even realize they've lost until they're already 3 steps behind. The real power of a Sigma female isn't in proving people wrong. It's in letting them dig their own grave while she watches. Because in a world where everyone's trying to size you up, the smartest move isn't to announce your strength. It's to let them assume and then make them regret it. Number 9, charm and intelligence won't save you from ruthless opportunists. Being smart and charming is great, but it's not a shield, it's bait. The more intelligent and self-assured you are, the more certain types of people will see you as a challenge. They're not impressed by your wisdom. They're strategizing ways to outplay you. They don't admire your confidence, they want to see if they can break it. If you don't understand this, you'll walk straight into traps disguised as friendships, business deals, or even relationships. Ruthless opportunists don't play fair. They study you, looking for gaps in your defenses. They flatter you to lower your guard, push boundaries in ways that seem small at first, and test how much they can get away with. They don't target the weak. They go after those with value. And if you think being brilliant will protect you, think again. Intelligence without street smarts is like a locked safe with the combination written on the door, useless against someone determined to take what's inside. A street-smart Sigma female knows that charm and intellect alone aren't enough. She sharpens her instincts, recognizing red flags before they turn into regrets. She doesn't just listen to words, she watches actions. She understands that trust is earned, not freely given. And most importantly, she never assumes she's immune to deception, because the moment you think you can't be played is the moment you become the easiest target. The truth is, the world isn't just a battlefield of intellect. It's a war of strategy, and the ones who survive aren't just the smartest or the most charismatic. They're the ones who see the game for what it is before they get played. Number 10. Good intentions won't stop predators from sensing weakness. Being kind-hearted is great, but thinking the world will reflect that kindness back at you is dangerous. Predators don't care about your good intentions. They care about your blind spots. They study people the way a wolf studies a herd, looking for the one that's easiest to separate from the pack. If you don't have the instincts to recognize them, you'll spend your life wondering why you keep getting betrayed, manipulated, or taken advantage of. These people exist in every area of life. In business, they'll act like mentors while quietly setting you up to fail. In relationships, they'll pretend to love you while slowly draining your energy and resources. In social circles, they'll call you a friend while using you as a stepping stone. And the worst part? They count on your inability to see them for what they really are. They exploit those who assume everyone has good intentions. They manipulate those who hesitate to set boundaries. And they destroy those who refuse to believe that some people are simply built to take and never give. A street-smart Sigma female understands this. She doesn't let her kindness make her careless. She reads between the lines, watching how people act rather than listening to what they say. She trusts her gut when something feels off, even if she can't explain why. She's not paranoid, she's aware, because she knows that in a world full of masks, the ability to spot a predator before they strike is the difference between staying in control and becoming someone else's prey. Street smarts aren't just a survival skill, they're a power move. A Sigma female who masters them isn't just avoiding danger or manipulation, she's positioning herself as someone untouchable. She knows when to speak and when to stay silent, when to negotiate and when to walk away, when to be kind and when to be ruthless. She understands that the world isn't fair, that people will test her. The power isn't given, it's taken, and she takes it without asking. This isn't about paranoia or hardness, it's about control. Control over her reputation, her emotions, her boundaries, and her life. While others get blindsided, played, or exploited, she moves like a chess master, always 10 steps ahead. She doesn't waste time proving herself to the wrong people, and she never lets anyone dictate her worth. At the end of the day, being a Sigma female isn't just about independence. It's about dominance in the subtlest, smartest way possible. The world respects those who can't be fooled, manipulated, or broken. And a street-smart Sigma, she's all three. If this hit home for you, don't just leave, level up with us. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a video that sharpens your mindset. Like this video if you're all about moving smarter, not harder. And drop a comment below. What's the biggest street smart lesson you've learned in life? Let's build a community of sharp, unstoppable minds, and if you know someone who needs this, share it. Because in a world full of wolves, it's time more people learned how to stop being the prey.